Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast. We are in week 3 already. This is why the NFL season feels so short, because it goes by as fast as anything, and yet you're waiting for it all off season like the slowest time of your life. Before we jump into this Bengals matchup, go to commanders247.com. That's commanders number 2, number 4, number 7.com. And check out a lot of really great articles that Mike and Eric have put up. I am lagging behind. I have one coming on finding wide receiver 2. Every week something changes and I have to go back and edit my draft. I will have that up this week. I promise you guys that. But go to commanders247.com and check out all the great things for everybody who still believes in print media. What a beautiful media form. Go consume that. Check it out. Share it with your friends. All right. We are 1-1 coming off beating the Giants. Eric, any key observations or takeaways from the Giants game?
Touchdowns are way better than field goals. There's very little in football I dislike more than sub 30-yard field goals, and I think we kicked 6 of those last week. Got to find a way to punch it in when you get down close. The Giants did a great job in the red zone, but man, you got to find a way to score touchdowns. I can't watch that. Good job to the new kicker. I might have to learn his name. He might stick around for a little while, so I haven't done that yet. But yeah, good job to him.
Austin Siebert. And we killed ourselves in the red zone, and that's becoming a really big theme with these penalties when we get in the red zone. We're just rushing to get into our plays, and offensive linemen are just jumping. Veteran linemen, too, like Sam Cosby. Like, bro, come on, man. They're just getting excited, and I don't know if it's something with what we're doing with the snap count in the red zone or whatever, but it just, for whatever reason, it's generating penalties. Mike, what's your big takeaway from the game Sunday?
That the team is competent. I guess that's the best word to use. They play football. Like, even from last week when they were blown out by the Buccaneers, it didn't feel like a 17-point loss. They lost, and it was bad, but it didn't seem like as destructive as other 17-point losses have felt recently. And the 3-point win, it didn't feel like the game was really in jeopardy, even though they kept moving the ball but not scoring touchdowns. It never felt like they were in serious jeopardy of losing the game. I just felt comfortable with Jayden Daniels at quarterback, which is weird because he's a rookie and you expect him to panic or to look like the other rookies that's been playing this season so far. And no disrespect to them, they're rookies. They're supposed to be playing the way they're playing. It's actually praise for Daniels that he's not looking like a rookie so far. And that's a huge W for the organization in the long term. But as far as the game on Sunday, take the W, move on. We're on to Cincinnati.
You got to take the ones that you get because you don't get too many of them. What I will say, my takeaway is I love the fact that we finally have an offensive coordinator that will run the ball more than we pass the ball. It's been a long time coming. I'm enjoying seeing it. We're playing conservative ball, but I'm okay with that. We would be lights out if our defense was better, man, with the way that we play offensively, where we're controlling the clock. And then, we take our shots here and there, but we run the ball really consistently. It makes me just agonize for a better defense, and hopefully we can put things together. I like what we're doing. It is really hard to understand who the wide receiver number 2 is, because at this point, it could be any of our wide receivers, to be honest with you, because even Terry's only getting 2-3 catches a game. But we're going to figure it out. They're going to get in a rhythm. I have faith. All right. Like you said, Mike, we are on to Cincinnati. And let me inform you about Cincinnati a little bit. So the Bengals are 0-2 on the season, and they lost to the Patriots and the Chiefs. So let me tell you something. The Patriots defense is pretty decent. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. They had a Mahomes call, like the Jordan calls back in the day. Mahomes got a call late in that game, which led to a field goal that they eventually kicked to beat the Bengals. But the Bengals should have won that game. I mean, they played toe-to-toe, and I think they scored late, and they were up or they got a turnover or something like that, and they were up on the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs threw this, like, 4th down play. They got a penalty. It was nasty work by the NFL. I say that to say this Bengals team can play with anybody, but they play up and they play down to their opponent. That seems to be the case. let's see. So they had some offseason additions. They were busy. They added Sheldon Rankins. You remember the defensive tackle, big boy. They had Mike Gesicki, the tight end from the Dolphins, who for years I wanted to get on my fantasy team, but he's a very active tight end. He had a really good game last week. They added Zach Moss. I'm going to tell you why they added Zach Moss, but Zach Moss was in Buffalo for a long time, was in Indianapolis last year with the Colts. They signed probably my favorite free agent last year, Geno Stone from Baltimore, the safety. I think he led the league in interceptions last year or was somewhere near the lead in interceptions. Von Bell was another safety they signed, and Trent Brown is a tackle. Now, they lost Joe Mixon, which is why Zach Moss is there. Zach Moss is not an equivalent of Joe Mixon, but, that's the way the NFL works. Mixon's down in Houston doing his thing. I think he just recently got hurt. They also lost DJ Reader. I know that Bengals fans felt that one, man. And Jonah Williams, which was one of their offensive linemen as well that they lost. Now, in the draft, Amarius Mims, offensive tackle. He's having a pretty decent season so far, 75.6 PFF rating. They signed defensive lineman Chris Jenkins. He's very active, 82 PFF rating, and Jermaine Burton, wide receiver. Now, there are a couple more draft picks and a couple more free agents, but those were the impact players. Last year, they were 9-8 and missed the playoffs. So this 0-2 start isn't wholly like just unreal, right? They weren't all that great last year. Now, the exception is Joe Burrow was hurt for the second half or more of last season, and so that's why their record was what it was. He's still coming back, it looks like to me. He's still kind of rounding into shape, which is sort of some of the issues that they've had so far. After only playing 10 games last year, I think Joe Burrow is still Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow will be just fine. Hopefully, he does not find his balance against us this week. So, all right, Eric, you're our resident offensive coordinator. Talk to us about the Bengals and their key players, and what do you think they're going to do from a play style standpoint against their Commanders defense this week?
Thank you very much. It's very much they've been not super balanced on offense. They've been very pass heavy the first couple of games. Zach Moss, Chase Brown, kind of running back by committee there, not super productive. I think they only produced about 60 yards on the ground last week. But the passing, they're throwing all over the place. Interestingly, Jamar Chase, their top wide receiver, has also gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. The aforementioned Mike Gesicki seems to be the target of choice, at least early on in the season. He actually led the team last week with 91 yards on 7 catches. T. Higgins is injured, air quotes, or I don't know what's going on with T. Higgins. He may be trending toward playing.
I think it's a hamstring.
Well, a hamstring. He's also hamstring, rearrange those letters. It turns into contract, I think. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with T. Higgins. If he's available, then you've got a really nasty 1-2 punch with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at the wide receiver position with Burrow throwing the ball around. So they tend to lean on the pass a little bit more this season. I don't see that changing at all this coming week, considering they are playing this Washington Commanders secondary that's been pretty much shredded 2 weeks in a row. Played a little better, much better game from St. Juste. I'm sure Mike will get in to that. Benjamin St. Juste on defense played a much better game last week, but overall, Commanders' pass defense has been not so great. The pass rush was a little better last week, but again, they did not cause Daniel Jones to turn the ball over, which is like you got to try to not get a turnover off of Daniel Jones in the NFL. But that's just how things work. So I look for a pass-heavy attack from the Cincinnati Bengals this week. There's no reason for them to not go straight after this defense. Commanders pass rush. Cleveland Farrell got another sack last week. That's 2 on the season so far. I believe he's the only Commander to register a sack so far. The inside pressure hasn't been great. There have been running lanes. Joe Burrow, not a running quarterback, but very slippery and has very good mobility. Very similar to like a Baker Mayfield, what we saw in week 1, where he will use his legs to to allow his arms to make plays. So that's coming up. So I see especially if T. Higgins plays, I see a very big pass heavy attack. Probably a lot of downfield stuff because the pressure hasn't been great and the coverage hasn't been great on the back end. That's not a great combination. So I foresee a lot of downfield passing attempts this week with some running sprinkled in. Maybe one of those guys gets things going this week. The Commanders' rush defense hasn't been horrible, but hasn't been top-notch either because neither of the rushing attacks it's faced thus far have been that great either. But there's plays to be had there. I think you will see a probably 60-40 pass run split and the secondary will be attacked by Joe Burrow and company this week.
Yeah, that sounds like a solid game plan against what we've seen from our defense so far. Mike, our resident defensive coordinator, is going to tell you how the Commanders are going to stop all of that and shut it down. Take it away, Mike.
They can't. The end. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Like Eric said, Benjamin St. Juice did have a better game last week. Probably his best game since the 2022 season, if we want to be honest. Um, Other than that, it's kind of hard. It's still hard to justify what the defense can be or even what they are right now. Um, the cornerback situation is going to continue to suck. We probably should have signed Stephon Gilmore at some point this offseason. He was sitting right there for the taking, but for some reason they went with Michael Davis, and he's getting juked and trucked and mossed and any other football verb you want to use to describe his play so far this season. Um, but outside of the cornerbacks and the rest of the secondary, the thing that they're going to have to do next Monday night is pressure Joe Burrow. They have to. And that starts with Allen and Payne. And I know you usually don't use your defensive tackles to generate pressure historically or whatever, but they're making so much money and they can be dominant. So they should be dominant. And like Ali said earlier, they're missing some offensive linemen. The Bengals offensive line hasn't been that strong, especially during Burrow's time there in the first place. So the fact that they're missing some people, you would hope that they can get a little bit more pressure. Because if they don't, maybe what I said earlier is actually the truth, and they won't be able to stop them. So key players: Benjamin St. Juice, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and I'll say Frankie Louvu. I'm going to say Frankie Louvu every game because I feel like that's the person that the defensive staff wants to kind of like, I wouldn't say necessarily build the defense around, but that's kind of their like central figure, if that makes any sense. Like he kind of stirs the drink with in their mind based on what they've said in the offseason, based on so far. You've seen him pretty much all over the field, even on bad plays, like when Neighbors got that long pass. Who rocked them at the end of the play? It was Luvu. So, yeah, those are the four key players for Monday night. If all four can hit high marks, it's going to make that game so much more interesting.
Yeah, and they're going to have to because this Bengal offense is eventually going to put it together. The Bengals are eventually not going to be a winless team because you know that their pedigree is a little bit better than that, and they have a franchise quarterback. So spot on there. So if we flip the field and we look at what the Commanders might do against this Bengals defense, which has been actually pretty good this year as well, very good at creating turnovers. Eric, what do you think that is being drawn up this season for the Commanders on offense? I said this season, this week for the Commanders on offense against the opportunistic Bengals defense.
Yeah, so the Bengals' game plan on defense so far this year seems to be bend but don't break. They give up yards between the 20s. They're going to let you run the ball. What they're trying to do is limit explosive plays and lock down inside the 20-yard line, which pretty much plays exactly to the way the Commanders' offense, what they're kind of designed to do, which is lean on the run, don't look for explosive plays, just churn. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic between the two because, what the Bengals are trying to force you to do, the Commanders seem like they're going to be more than happy to do. Jaden Daniels last week, especially after he was getting happy feet at the beginning of the game. He got rocked one time, and all of a sudden he turned into a pro quarterback. Did y'all notice that? How his game just flipped when after he came back in the game. He was scanning the field. First time in this year I'd seen him step up in the pocket. He slid, keeping his eyes down. That was great. Do more of that, Jaden. But what I see about Jaden recently is that last game anyways, he was playing that kind of Alex Smith ball. That little check down. We're not looking for explosive plays. We're happy to take what the defense gives us and move the chains. And that was exactly what, that worked great against the Giants until they got inside the 20, which is going to really honestly be the same case against most teams because inside the 20 is where they clamp down. Bengals last week did a very good job against the Chiefs inside the 20 as well, clamping down. And it was hard for the Chiefs to score when they got close. So, it's going to be, I feel like it may look very similar to last week where Washington is going to lean on Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, possibly even more so in the run game and in the pass game. You're going to see a lot to the tight ends, a lot to the running backs, and the quick screen and quick slant game like you saw last week to the wide receivers. They did a good job getting the ball into Terry McLaurin's hands. I think the Giants did a great job not letting them go anywhere. I mean, he had 6 catches for only 22 yards because they were just on him every time he got the ball in his hands. There was 2 guys right there ready to tackle him, so they really keyed on him. I thought Noah Brown did a good job stepping up as well. That could be your WR2 there, Ellie. So maybe we can see a little bit more out of Noah Brown this week as he acclimates himself to the offense. Speaking of the offense, one thing that has I couldn't figure out, it looks strange to me, like something about Cliff Kingsbury's offense that didn't sit right with me the first 2 games. And toward the end of last week, I kind of figured out what it is he almost never uses any sort of motion or shifts, which is unheard of in today's NFL. They just line up and play. And it's weird, and I feel like if you need to add that at some point here, not that I know more than Cliff Kingsbury, but at the NFL level, I think if you've got a young quarterback developing, using motion to just at least help him identify the coverage is to me is a no brainer. But Cliff Kingsbury doesn't seem to like it. I saw De'Ami Brown go into motion twice. That was literally it. I think they used motion 2 plays out of all the offensive plays they ran last week. So that's a little crazy. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But as far as game plan, I think it's going to be a run heavy and dink and dunk style of offense. The key is going to be once you get down into the 20, because the way the Bengals seem to play defense, you're going to get into the red zone. What are you going to do? Are you going to have another 7 field goal day like you did last week? Or are you going to be able to punch something in? I believe the Bengals can be run on much easier than they can be passed on, especially down there. They gave up 150 yards on the ground last week, 180 the week before that. They do a good job against quarterbacks with mobility. That's one thing to keep an eye on. Anthony Richardson did not have a big rushing day. Patrick Mahomes was pretty much held in check with his legs last week as well. So we'll see what they can do with Jaden Daniels. So that's kind of the key for Washington is you're going to get in the red zone. You've got to score when you get in the red zone. And I feel like motioning will help with that, using some shifts to help Jaden out. We'll see if they do it. I don't think they will because I don't think that's what Cliff Kingsbury likes to do on offense. But yeah, that's the key. Run the ball, dink and dunk, and score when you get the chance. And hopefully you can hold Mike's group can hold the Bengals in check on the other side just enough to eke out a W on the road.
That's right. Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think we just have to. The motions thing I think has been talked about a lot recently. I think you're spot on. I think there's a lot of different perspectives about it all over the internet. Me personally, I'm just happy as long as they're running the football. After last year, I love old school football. I love pounding the rock. I love beating people up, on the offensive line and then taking your shots. The one play I loved last week, man, and it really sort of surmises my surprise at how much I really appreciate Austin Eckler in this offense. But it was when he ran that little Texas route on 3rd and 11 or something like that. And then Eckler just went out and came back across the middle. Daniels hit him. The throw was 2 yards. And then there was just this massive seam that opened up with a bunch of Commanders downfield blocking that he ran right through. It was like him running through a car wash almost to get the first down. I thought that's the type of play that I think is going to help Daniels get acclimated to the NFL, that'll accumulate yards for him. Without him doing too much or putting the ball in harm's way and brings him along slowly. So I love what they're doing. It's not the most exciting brand of football. There's a lot of passes that go sideways, which sometimes I'm like, all right, now let's start and throw the ball forward. But, it's a part of what they're doing right now. And for right now, it's working. It's keeping Daniels out of danger. So I can't complain about that. All right, Mike, with what we're going to do offensively, how do you think that the Bengals are going to try to strap up and stop what we got going on?
I'm sorry, I was weak earlier because I looked at the headline under Eric's name and I couldn't make out what it was. Then I saw it and I was like, Juan and Juan, who the heck is Juan? and then I just lost it. But I'm sorry, y'all. I digress. Yeah, the Bengals is crazy. When I looked at the stats, I was not expecting them to see them in the top 10, and I was a bit concerned. I'm like, man, that's kind of scary going against a top 10 defense. Second time this year, in my opinion. I feel like Tampa, maybe not officially, but I don't see why they wouldn't be a top 10 defense. But you got to look a little bit closer sometimes. They're number 2 in passing defense. And that may be great for other when you're going against other teams. Not so great against the Commanders because they are not passing the ball that well right now. Well, I wouldn't say that well. They're just not explosive right now. They depend on the run. And unfortunately for Cincinnati, they're 26 versus the run. That's very interesting. They do have some ballers though. Like I'm not going to sit here and say they don't have ballers. Ellie mentioned Rankins already, the free agent pickup. Geno Stone, safety from Baltimore, he's been balling for them this year. Their linebackers, Logan Wilson, very, very good coverage linebacker. Jermaine Pratt, he's a solid linebacker. They have edge rushers that can get after us with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. I'm sorry. So they have pieces to shut us down in the passing game. But I would be worried about them stopping in the run, especially with them ranked 26 going against a hot rushing team of Washington right now. And it's not just Jayden Daniels. Robinson dropped 130 on your head. I think Eckler added, another 50, 60 maybe? Or maybe less than that. I'm sorry.
47, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, I knew it was something like that.
Yeah.
That's 177 rushing yards. The Bengals are giving up almost that a game right now. I think it's like 130 or something crazy like that. So Washington may be able to run the ball on Cincinnati Monday and kind of slow the game down, muck it down. And that's a potential problem for a top 10 defense in Cincinnati. But I'll admit, they have ballers. And if I were them, I would try to force Daniels to pass. Easier said than done. But that's the road for them to shut down Washington's offense. Because if they try to force them to run, that's right up Washington's alley.
Yeah. I think like the way that happens is not specifically through the Cincinnati defense. It's the Cincinnati offense. If Joe Burrow gets on track and we're down 14 points in the second quarter, we're not running the ball that much, right? And now we're playing right into the Bengals' hands because, like you said, they're number 2 in the pass defensive category. So I think
it's going to be a chess game for real Monday night.
Is.
Like it's going to be interesting. I kind of question ABC or NFL putting that as the second game and not the Bills. I think it's Jaguars Bills on the first game. Yeah, I questioned that decision, but like the more I look into it, this might be the much better game between the two matchups.
Yeah, it certainly can be. Speaking of matchups, Mike, I'm going to start with you. Who's going to be the one key player in the game that's going to be the difference maker this week?
If he plays, I know we talked about him earlier, and it is a legit hamstring injury. He injured it. You could say it's coincidental that he injured it the last practice before week 1. But nevertheless, T. Higgins, if he plays, it could be trouble for us because they also have another receiver. I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry. But they have a third receiver that scored twice already this season that replaced Higgins. So you add him with Higgins and Chase, it could get scary for Washington. And I ain't talking about Terry.
Yeah. Are you talking about Jermaine Burton? Or is it the other guy that scored? It's not
hold
Burton.
on.
No, it's not Burton.
I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Eric, who's your key player to the game?
I'm having a hard time deciding who's who, so I'm going to go with the starter. I'm going to make it Brian Robinson Jr. He's really important to this offense right now. We saw it against the Giants last week. The team was able to get him going. The running lanes are going to be there against Cincinnati unless they follow Mike's advice and just load up the box and force the Commanders to throw, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Or I don't think they're going to want to do that right away because Daniels has been proficient enough throwing the ball this year that I don't think they can easily make this offense one-dimensional. But if you get another strong showing from Brian Robinson and honestly Austin Eckler too, if you can churn out yards and keep the chains moving and really win that time of possession game like you did against the Giants last week, and most importantly, find a way to score. The way you're going to do that is with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler just pounding the ball, just nonstop. So I want 20 plus carries for Robinson, more than 10 for Eckler, and that's the key to the game for me. If those guys get going, they can make it a long day for Cincinnati.
Definitely. My player, Zach Ertz, I think after he ripped that interception away from that defender, it just built his bond with Jaden Daniels that much more. I think Ertz is going to be a big deal this week because if we do pass, it'll probably be on the interior and within, 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. So that's Ertz all day. He's been our one consistent receiving target. I do like that. All right, score predictions. Eric, give me your prediction and outcome here.
Yeah, I don't like the matchup. I think Washington does on offense what Cincinnati doesn't do well at stopping on defense, but that's vice versa as well. I think Cincinnati, what they do on offense, really plays against what Washington hopes to be able to do on defense. And unfortunately, when you throw the ball a lot, you score more points than you do when you run the ball a lot. So I got Cincinnati in this one. I think big plays are the difference in this one. I'm going to go probably they're going to hang a 30 burger. So we'll go 31-19 Bengals.
Okay. Mike?
The reason I said T. Higgins was the key because I feel like it'll take attention off of Chase and Darrell, and that would be a huge mistake for us because if Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones did what they did on Sunday, do y'all know what's going to happen to us on Monday with Chase and Darrell, bro? Like, we're not talking about some okay quarterback and okay receiver. We're talking about two bona fide DAWGS, not DOGS, DAW dogs. If that happens, it can get really, really dangerous. So I'm going 36-23 Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Washington will move the ball, but the offense still learning, defense is yearning. So it's going to get ugly. I feel like, and it's Monday night. Like, we don't do good on Monday. We'll do well on Monday nights, and 23-36.
All right. Well, negative Nellies. No, I think 36 was the number in my mind too, Mike. I'm surprised that you had the same one. I do think the Bengals put up 36. I don't think that they're an 0-3 team. I just cannot fathom them going 0-3 because that effectively means their season is over with, especially in the division that they play. I think their problems have been relative to Joe Burrow, rust, and incorporating a lot of new pieces, more so than that they are a bad team. And they played some really decent opponents. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Patriots played well the first week. They play a lot of ball control as well. I'm going to say 36 Bengals. I'm going to say Commanders 19. I think Jaden Daniels gets his first passing touchdown, but I don't think it's enough because this team, I think, for the Bengals is ready to really start to play the way that they can play. And we are still in a rebuild mode, retool, whatever you want to call it. We are where we are, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to see us play well and play smart, intelligent football throughout the week, and then we'll kind of see where we are at the end. So if we pull out a win, even better. But I think the Bengals have to be the favorites in this. I haven't checked the Vegas line on this one, but I have to imagine it's at least 5 points. I'm going to check that real quick if you guys can give me just a second. Versus Bengals line. What do you think it is? What's your guess of what the line is so far?
6.5.
Mike?
4.
Yeah, right now it's a 7.5 point favorite for the Bengals. Yeah, it's a touchdown plus, almost a 2 point conversion favorite over the Commanders. So as health reports come out throughout the week, we'll know we are just not getting any pass rush pressure to affect Joe Burrow in the way that we need to really start to change how he's going to play. And that's the biggest concern. All right, fellas, thank you so much. To all our listeners, make sure you go to commanders247.com, read the articles that just have been written by these wonderful writers, Eric and Mike, and I got some stuff coming. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends to tell some friends. Take us on the road with you on your way to FedEx Northwest Stadium. We are on all audio platforms as well. Subscribe on there too. We appreciate you greatly, and we'll see you next time. Go Commanders. Left hand